Okay, so if you did receive that, like we were just talking about, if you did receive that shirt from Under Armour, and it was, a few dollars over what you initially said you would be willing to spend for a shirt, and if it was something that you really liked, you would be okay with, in the future, going to buy a second pair of same color or different color. What would you do?
Well, I would probably go, go to basically the same type. I would probably try out different colors. Maybe, maybe a slightly different style or design just to change it up. But if, the basic overall function was the same, I might branch out a little bit like that.
Okay. What would be acceptable colors for you to branch out and get a second
So
set for you?
shirt,
Yeah, for a top.
I'm pretty good with most colors as long as they're bright. So, anything bright and then maybe black and gray. So, those are pretty good for me.
Okay. Would you give Under Armour as a gift if you really liked it?
Hmm. I don't really see myself giving sports apparel as a gift. Maybe it's just a personal thing, but if I knew someone liked the brand, I would probably do a gift certificate. But I don't know if I would actually buy a certain item.
Okay. Um, if you said if the person knew the brand, if they didn't know the brand but you knew it was a good brand, would you introduce them to it by buying the gift certificate, or would you give them something that's more, let's say, mainstream?
Um, as a gift, I probably wouldn't introduce it to them by giving them a gift certificate. I don't know. To me, that would seem a little like pushy. I guess to me, it just seems a little contrived.
Okay.
If I were to give someone a gift, I would give them something I knew that they liked and they already, trusted.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you would buy something that they would already know, not
Yes.
something that, hey, you know what, I found this and I think it's really cool. You should try it. Here's a gift for you to try it.
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you feel more comfortable doing that than introducing them to a new brand that you've tested and that you liked?
Because I would feel bad if they didn't like it, and I would feel like it was my fault if I were like, oh, here's a gift certificate, for Under Armour, and then they go get something and they don't like it, and it's like, oh, I just gave them a gift they didn't like when I could have given them something that I already knew they did.
Okay. Now let's say if you had the opportunity, instead of giving them a gift card and there is an Under Armour store, would you take them and say, oh, I bought this. It was good for me. I want to buy you something, but I would like you to first try it out. Would you do that?
Um, yeah, I would. Well, I would take them to the store. I would definitely be open to taking them to the store. I guess my way of introducing them would be first just to talk about it. Like, I don't know if we're out running together at the locker room, like we just say, oh yeah, I like shoes. I really like these shoes. These shoes are great. Maybe you should try it out, or we can go together. And then if they decided, they wanted something, then that was their decision. But I wouldn't just buy something for them.
Okay, so you would first introduce them to the name and give them your experience with it before buying anything for them.
Exactly.
Okay. Is there anybody in your life that you would say, you know what, I think this person is athletic, um, they would be willing to try a new brand?
Um, yeah, I think my dad is pretty open minded and he likes to play tennis a lot. So if there was a brand that I thought he would like, I would definitely let him know about it.
Okay. On the Under Armour, when we first started the interview, you mentioned that especially the first word under was very feminine to you. Um, do you think if you just went up to your father and you said, "Hey, Dad, I would like you to try out this shirt. It's Under Armour." Do you think that he would also see it as a feminine
No,
brand?
I think he would see it more like a guy sort of thing because he is a guy, I guess. And armor maybe reminds you of war, like. And I know he likes war video games, so I don't think he would see under or hear the words Under Armour and think it was feminine. I think he would probably see it more as masculine.
Okay, so then he would focus on the second word rather than the first?
I think so.
Okay. Okay, so you just mentioned that you would buy the Under Armour maybe for your dad. He likes to play tennis.
Yeah, if I took him and he really liked it, and then I was like, yeah, if you want to try it out, then I would buy it for him. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Going back to the commercial for a minute. Based on everything that you saw, do you think that Under Armour is meant for a sport that is played during the winter and the cold, in the spring and the summer? What would you see Under Armour as? What kind of weather?
I would want to say that something cold because it covers your entire body, but, based on the commercial, it seemed to be all futuristic, high-tech sort of thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if it were for, any type of weather. Like, if it was hot, it would keep you cool, and if it was cold out, it would keep you warm. So I'm not sure.
Okay. On the futuristic, you mentioned that. Do you believe that maybe that's what would set them apart from the other brands, since they're a new brand and they don't have customer loyalty or history behind their brand? Do you think that would be where they would capture a big audience?
Maybe have an edge over
Right.
it. Yeah, because I would think so, only because if I just kind of think back to commercials that I vaguely remember about other sports brands, it's all about it enhances your performance, or it allows you to do the best job you possibly can. But this one seemed like it would go even farther, especially with the girl. She's doing this tappy tap on her arm, and it just seems like really something quote unquote ahead of its time. So I think that's definitely an angle I haven't seen before with other sports brands.
Okay. So seeing that would be something that would interest you to even just to try it out.
Yeah, I think that's enough to kind of pique my interest a little bit.
Okay. Were you able to catch the tagline in that commercial?
Oh, is this something about we're working on it or something? No, I guess not.
On the tagline, what they decided to do for this particular campaign was towards the end. Did you see those words with that hashtag?
No.
Okay, the hashtag, it's a hashtag and then I will.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember that?
Yes, no.
Okay. When you think of the words I will, what comes to your mind from those words?
I guess when we hear I will, it kind of comes to mind like goals, aspirations, but with the determination of making it happen. Especially since we're all about sports, I'm sure every athlete has their goal of I will win, I will get to this point, I will. So for me, it kind of conjures up that emotion of achieving your goals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you, just out of left field, do you see that as an answer to any other brand?
Let me think an answer to. Oh, I see what you mean. Kind of like we're doing what they can't, sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought of it that way, but if that were true, I guess that might be the angle. Like okay, I will, and we're the ones doing what should be done.
Do you remember Nike's tagline? Or
Just do it. I think that.
I'm sorry. What was it again?
Just do it.
Okay.
I think it was something along those lines.
when you first heard "I will," did you by any chance think of Nike's tagline like, "Oh, okay, just do it, I will"?
No, I didn't think of Nike's tagline.
Okay, so completely separate. You
Mm-hmm.
never made there was no connection in your mind.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Now as somebody that hasn't bought, like you said,
Yeah.
clothing in quite some time,
Yeah.
um, aside from the colors, the aesthetics of the clothing, what would be a feature that you would say, you know what, if someone would do this, make this, whatever, comfortable or whatever it may be, what would it be for you that you would say, I would want to buy that?
Really? Well, what I would want is,
Or let me rephrase the question.
uh,
What would you want in a clothing, a sports apparel that you would use a lot? What would you want?
yeah, I would want something that like, really supports me well, because I'm kind of more on the bustier side, and when I do, and this is probably why I don't really shop for sports clothes a lot, is because when I do go, it's not really made for people with my body type, because they say it's secure and it says, they say it's fitting and will support you, but it doesn't really for me, not for someone my size. So I would like something like that to be more common, instead of having to find, extra stores, have to wear extra bras, to make up for what the clothes don't do.
Okay. So for you, even though you would initially buy something because you would like the way it looks, if someone came up with something that was innovative and gave more support, you would go and buy that despite of how it would look. Of course.
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now based on the commercial again, what ages and genders do you think they're targeting?
Hmm. Well, I feel like the first guy was more like, in his adulthood. The second guy I saw, he seemed more kind of like college age. And then the last girl, she seemed kind of young. Maybe I would say post college. So I guess the age range that I saw and I felt they were speaking to were, you know, 18 and up.
Okay. And then just to wrap this up, can you give me 5 things that you remember from Under Armour? Whether it's the commercial or from something that I
Oh, okay.
mentioned, or anything.
One thing would be the two U's. One facing up, one facing down.
Okay, so their logo.
Those yellow socks in the commercial. Yellow socks and shoes.
Okay.
The fact that you said it absorbs your sweat and it feels like a second skin. That whole kind of futuristic deal they have going on. And then now that you brought it up, the tagline, I will. So those are my 5 things.
So you think that if you saw that tagline somewhere else, you would automatically think, "Oh, it's Under Armour."
Probably.
Okay. Do you see any of the other sports brands as futuristic as Under Armour was in this commercial?
No. No, I've never even thought of sports apparel being futuristic until this commercial.
So then it's definitely something that Under Armour can own.
I think so.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you very much for your time.
You're
And
welcome.
we have a interview consent form that we'll just have you sign. And thank you very much.
Thank you.